Hello, and thank you for listening to this presentation on further education, brought to you by the Experiential Learning Hub at the University of Guelph. I'd like to begin with a territorial acknowledgement for the University of Guelph. It is with great respect the Experiential Learning Hub acknowledges that the University of Guelph resides on the ancestral lands of the Attawandaron people and the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We uphold the significance of the Dish with One Spoon covenant and the continuing relationship our Indigenous neighbors have with this land. We acknowledge today this gathering place is home to the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging them reminds us of our relationships to this land where we learn and work. As we explore the subject of further or continuing education, there are a few things that you will come away with knowing. Firstly, if you're thinking of continuing on in your studies after graduation, you'll see that you're not alone, as enrollment numbers and economic trends are often connected. In planning this potential path, there are some key considerations that you should be aware of. Part of that planning will entail understanding the overall differences between grad and professional studies as well as college programs. Lastly, regardless of what educational path you may choose, there are some best practices that tend to be shared when applying. The events that have unfolded in real time have changed the outlook of many students approaching the end of their undergraduate studies, as well as those who have just graduated. It is often said that recessions coincide with increased post-secondary enrollments, and in looking at the previous economic downturn, we may find signs of things to come. Looking at StatsCan analysis of the 2008 financial crisis, it was found that university graduates returned in greater numbers for further education. Most entered either master's programs or college certificates. The reasoning being that with a duration of at most 2 years, they could upgrade skills and knowledge and be ready to hit an improving labor market. Furthermore, though improved job satisfaction and earnings were reported, the trade-off was that these individuals often carried larger student debt burdens. While it is argued that the earnings could offset such debt, this was not experienced by everyone. And such risks highlight the importance of thinking carefully about your goals when considering a return to school. Whenever a student comes to see me to discuss additional schooling, be it another major, grad school, or college programs, my first question is, what is your end goal? Given the time, effort, and of course money involved, this is an important question to consider. Thinking of your career goals is a necessary step when exploring further education. Even preliminary answers can serve as a valuable starting point to then embark upon greater research. This process will help identify what additional studies are necessary, the programs that are most valued, or if further education is even required. As part of this research, internet-based resources can be helpful. These include job banks, industry or trade association websites, and social media such as LinkedIn. Taking it a step further, informational interviews can be a powerful tool, as it can be beneficial to connect with people working in fields or roles that are of interest. When considering further education, there are multiple paths. For many, grad school immediately comes to mind. Master's programs can be either course-based or more research-oriented. Professional schools are another form of advanced education. These programs emphasize skills and knowledge that are applied in specific occupations and can have highly competitive admissions processes. Colleges, with their focus on applied knowledge, are a popular choice for continuing education. Through their diploma and certificate offerings, there is opportunity for many to either upskill or complement their university education with more career-oriented training. Because there are so many potential paths one can take, it further reinforces the importance of thoughtful planning. When considering a program, take a look at their strengths, approaches, or areas of focus. Every program has their areas in which they are strong, and they use these strengths as a selling point. Usually this will just take going online and looking at their About Us page, but can also entail examining the curriculum as well. When evaluating a program, consider these strengths or areas of focus in context of your own strengths, interests, and career goals. Do these align? While you should go and look at individual program websites, as a starting point, in this slide are a few resources to help you begin your search for prospective programs. If you're at a point in which you feel further studies are right for you and have specific programs in mind, some best practices should be taken to heart in the application process. While some exceptions apply, most programs will require you to apply through their department or school directly. In addition, be aware of their particular rules, requirements, and timelines. You don't want to go through the trouble of putting together an application only to be rejected because you didn't follow instructions. Thankfully, most, if not all, programs will have dedicated contacts who you can reach out to if you have any questions or concerns. When it comes to requirements, and here I'm focusing on grad and professional programs, there are some commonalities. One has to have completed their undergraduate studies or be close to doing so. Your grades have to be reasonably good, but some programs will put greater weight on the last year or two of your studies, noting that it takes time for students to hit their stride and show their potential. Generally, a CV or resume will be required, as will letters of reference and a statement of interest. In addition, you may have to take a standardized test, such as the MCAT, GRE, or LSAT. Professional programs may require an interview or series of interviews. Because it will vary from program to program, it is important to pay careful attention to what each program requires as part of their admissions process. As mentioned, a statement of interest or letter of intent is frequently required. This is an important document that serves in many respects like a job cover letter. It puts your qualifications such as grades, letters of recommendation, and test results in context. When written well, it helps answer an admissions committee's question, why our program? By this point, you should have an understanding of why a particular program is a good fit for you, and this should be reflected in your document. In answering that question of why us, you should show how your education and experiences have shaped your outlook, and specifically what about the program aligns with your interests and aspirations. In short, show how you are a good fit for a given program, and how it's a good fit for you. Most graduate and professional programs will also require letters of recommendation. This is your opportunity to have others speak to your abilities and potential. Two big pieces of advice are to think strategically and act early. Consider those who can speak at length and with great confidence about your best qualities. The professor you worked with across 3 courses will naturally be a better option than the teaching assistant you had for just 1 course. When you have a short list of prospective references, ask if they can be a strong reference and help refresh their memory through a follow-up chat and sending along your CV or resume. Again, do not leave this to the last minute. Give at the very least a few weeks advance notice. They can be very busy, and if under tight deadlines, may not be able to write as thoughtful a letter on your behalf. Of course, be sure to keep your references updated as to your application, and be sure to thank them for their help. As part of your exploring further education, you should be aware of financial resources available. College programs are in many respects similar to your undergraduate studies when it comes to scholarships and bursaries, though it may be difficult to obtain financial assistance for short, continuing ed programs. When it comes to professional or graduate programs, the latter tends to have greater funding opportunities, and many programs have funding such as teaching assistantships built into admissions offers. If you're considering graduate studies, you should also be aware of major government funding, most notably through tri-council agencies such as SSHRC and NSERC, and provincially administered programs such as the Ontario Graduate Scholarship. Deadlines for these tend to run much earlier than graduate admissions deadlines, so early action is important. Lastly, one can fund their further studies through financial aid, such as loans and work study. Details for these are best explored through your prospective school's financial aid office. Thank you for listening to this webinar. Further education can bring numerous benefits, but should be approached with thoughtful research and planning. Doing so will ensure that if this is the right option for you, your efforts will lead to career success. We at the EL Hub are there to assist you in this process and are happy to answer any questions or concerns you may have.